this is literally the hardest thing for me to do. So the fact that I'm doing it right now, please bear in mind, is just the most difficult thing for me to do and feel comfortable with, and share with the internet. It's really, really hard for me to speak publicly and share my thoughts publicly. It's the hardest thing for my chart, especially. So, doing this, I just want to say that I've deleted so far 3 other videos that I was going to put out. One was too long, and the other was just I get so annoyed with myself when making videos. But in this video, I want to talk about the strengths of Neptune, and the weak parts of Neptune, and the parts where we fall victim, and the dangers of Neptune. First of all, one of the dangers of a Neptune transit is to blindly follow people, and why it's dangerous to blindly follow doesn't make any sense when you're having the transit, but later on you start to go, when you start to wake up, you start to go, oh, wow, okay, that makes sense, that might have not been a good idea. But it's important not to regret also this part of your life and part of the process. It's all part of the process, and it's all part of you becoming a better you, and obviously all these outers have their own purpose. So it's important to remember that Neptune doesn't make any sense at the time, but it makes sense later when you have the influence for the last time, so on and so forth. Just like Pluto, when you have like 3 hits of a Pluto transit and you're going, what the hell, this doesn't make any sense, I'm losing everything, I don't understand, how am I supposed to be powerful, I'm losing all of my power. And then after the 3rd time of the transit, you go, oh, okay, Pluto, okay, now I see what you're saying, and then you get all tough and badass and everything. It's the same thing with a Neptune transit, but with Neptune, you lose so much clarity, and you can really kind of go into a dream world and feel like you're on drugs for a long period of time. That's really, honestly, how I can describe this Neptune transit. And having Neptune transits, it's like being under the influence, even if you're not always on the influence of drugs. 'Cause I've done a lot of drugs, I'll just admit that right now, but it's never gotten to the point where it was such a bad addiction that I had to go to rehab or anything like that. Thank God for that. But having a Neptune transit, it's really difficult to pinpoint exactly what's going on with your mind, especially if you have Neptune in your 3rd house, which is the house of the mind, or if you have a very prominent Neptune opposing your sun, squaring your moon, etc. It's very difficult to not fall prey and not fall victim to Neptune. Neptune is just, it's really a good kind of thing to have when you're an artist or a creative type, but Neptune can also really piss you off and annoy you if you're not a creative type. And so you obviously kind of just have to flow with it while it's happening, and there's not much you can do about it. But it can be frustrating when you're trying to materialize, like when you're having a Saturn transit, and you have to sort of be on top of things. It's really hard to be on top of your shit when you're having so little clarity into what's going on. So that's one of the dangers of Neptune, is just, you don't know what's going on. But another danger of Neptune is, because of the fact that you don't know what's going on, you can also get yourself involved with some really shady people who drain you of your energy, who abuse you mentally, and you can't say, like, oh, stop being so abusive, because they'll either try to guilt trip you and make it so that you do believe and feed into their shit, or they just, it's just, you can't speak about it. You're just letting yourself go to this place because you don't know what else to do. So that's another danger, is getting involved with really shady people. Another thing is relationships being so falling for people who are just like so they could be shady, or they could be really not suited for you and really bad for you. But under a Neptune transit, you have hope that it's gonna work out, and then it just always screws you over. And if you're allowing a person who is really bad for you to continuously screw you over, it's probably a Neptune thing. But people don't know it's a Neptune thing, so they're going, it's your fault for letting it happen, it's your fault for letting it happen. And that is another problem with Neptune, is blame. Getting the blame for being a victim, which I really do feel that women who have prominent Neptunes always get victim blamed. They always have random crap just like happen to them, and then it's their fault. They're made to look like they're bad, and they're shamed, etc. And so I think that in making this video, speaking out too against abuse and cruelty, because it's really not okay. It's really not okay for a man to treat a woman like garbage, and women get a lot of blame for just allowing it, and so on and so forth. Someone else's bad behavior does not dictate a woman's worth, and that really, really upsets me about a lot of things that have happened to me, as well as other women I know with prominent Neptune placements. So another thing to keep in mind too is to know what's happening to you, and to try to stay away from really bad. But at the same time, I have to say, after having some Neptune transits myself, I can't undo the past. I can't undo what happened during these Neptune transits. I can only take them as a lesson and say, okay, it's over with now, time to do better. And that's all we really can do with the outer planets in general. So nothing that happens was a mistake. Everything, and Saturn will try to say to you when you're having a heavy Neptune transit that you're wasting your time. If you learned a major lesson in your life, you did not waste your time. You learned something. So that's another thing you have to keep in mind too, is that if you made a mistake, you made a mistake, but move on. It's okay. So another issue with Neptune is loss of material resources, or maybe your attitude on material things is sort of unrealistic. So another important thing to remember is not to be careful with your money. I'm not saying don't waste your money, blah blah blah, because the whole wasting time thing, that's another part of this too. But it's important to not overspend your money on people who do not deserve it. And also to be cautious too about how much you're spending, because you can kind of want to just go crazy and spend like all this money and stuff, and on things you don't really need, on pretty things, etc., so on and so forth. So this can be another issue under Neptune transits too, is your attitude about material things has to be looked at and has to be changed, because Neptune completely defies the material world. It's more like the art world. So this is another danger too. But a good part of Neptune is kind of escaping, escapism, dreaming. And if it's particularly nice Neptune transit, you can feel a sense of everything is beautiful, wow. You do lots of art, you see lots of pretty things. Everything the rose-colored glasses are quite nice, I have to say. You can kind of put on the blinders, and so to speak, and people don't really, people can mess with you psychologically, under these transits, but overall you can kind of sort of drift into your imagination land, so that Saturn or Pluto can't really get you down as much, because your outlook is so, oh, the world is beautiful, so on and so forth. So that's a strength of having a prominent Neptune or a Neptune transit. Another strength of Neptune is obviously, as I previously mentioned, art. Neptune is great for doing art, and music too. Many people who are musicians have prominent Neptunes. I see Neptune in the 7th house a lot for people who are musicians. And this is, the Neptune struggle and the Saturn struggle is, I don't have enough money to make it, it's a struggle, but Neptune is great for kind of just forgetting about that for a little while and escaping and focusing on the dream world. And dreams are really awesome under Neptune transits. Dreams can tell you things. You can have foresight under Neptune transits that you wouldn't have with any other outer planet, and this kind of foresight is your dreams telling you, your psyche telling you something that could happen later. Like my 3rd house Neptune does this a lot, where I have a dream about something, and a week later, and obviously always under Neptune transits, a week later, that same thing that I was thinking about actually manifested itself in the real world. So that's another interesting thing. Manifestation can happen under Neptune transits, because you're absorbed in your own sort of world, but this can manifest the dream world coming out into reality. So that's kind of cool about Neptune. And Neptune is just very mystical. So a lot of my art, during the Neptune transits I've had with the 5th house especially, is very mystical and different than any other kind of mystical art I've had before. It's always changing, but Neptune is cool in the way that it's not superficial. It defies superficiality. It takes away from superficiality, so it gives you a break from the mundane, so to speak. And Uranus does this too, and I've been also under the transit of Uranus square Sun too. So all of these outer planets can really do some cool stuff, and Neptune being in Pisces is great, because Neptune is at home in Pisces. Just like when Pluto was in Scorpio, Pluto was Pluto, and now Neptune is Neptune, and doing the Neptune thing. So I had to keep this sort of relatively short, mainly because my video thing has been telling me my video is too long when I try to upload. So anyway, that's some things I had to say about Neptune. And if you're interested in more, I'll post more, etc., etc. Thank you.